more than anything in my personal life, which ironically it's not necessarily my personal life, but I've been obsessed with the work that they're doing outside
Oh yeah,
with the street, right? Anyone that knows me personally knows this is like going to be the top three thing I talk about when I talk to you, right?
and it's
In
not a lie.
large, yeah, in large part, my flower bed has been in jeopardy, but we may survive. So, anywho, I'm in Chicago. You know, the city has its ways of doing things. So, the group that's working now are contractors. I remember this, but then I forgot. And so they're wrapping up. They're doing the curbs and the sidewalk from the street to the sidewalk. So the sidewalk that's in between the grass that gets you from your car to the actual sidewalk. But the city does the actual asphalt, just laying the groundwork, no pun intended. So I was chatting with the guy because that's what I do, especially when you're trying to save flowers. So probably the PM for it for the contractor, and I said, "So how much longer do you all have? Like, what do you normally? You're stopping September, October? They're literally like pouring concrete." And he's like, "No, we'll go like until December." And I said, like, even with the weather, the temperature dropping, he's like, sometimes we'll have to add some cover. I'm I'm not BSing you. That's exactly what he said
Yeah,
today. And I'm just like, and it dawned on me that especially for someone that is oftentimes cold. Like I feel like, when I was in the office, I was wearing like two sweaters, a scarf, and a hat, like it's pretty sensitive to cooler temps. I think generally speaking, it absolutely spills into the garden. And I think for other gardeners, the assumption is it's too cold for insert these vegetables to perform. It's it being this cold, the garden season is over. No. And it took me a while to one, learn it, then two, believe it, and then three, adjust my garden plans to live happily in that space. You were with me for the last bit of that. Well, you were with me for the last two bits, the believing
I'll say
it.
I've been with you for a long time, so
I knew it before we met, but I didn't exactly believe it. I
yeah, I
still
know,
had many doubts,
I
and
know.
now I believe it. And I'm in the middle of adjusting.
Well,
Yeah.
and I had something beautiful to say. Oh, I'm going to make a declaration here, okay? If you listen to this podcast and you really listen and you follow what we say through the fall season, you're going to have an amazing garden. And you're going to have to trust. There's trust that's involved, right? You're going to have faith that we're not going to steer you down the wrong path. But between Batavia being in Illinois and me being in North Carolina, we got you covered. And this is nothing that we haven't done before. We've gone through the struggles. I mean, look, 5 years ago, no, let me roll that back. 7 years ago, God, I hate saying that stuff. It makes me feel so old. 7 years ago,
Blessing.
I was planting my cabbage 2 seasons. I was doing a fall and a spring planting. I was planting my cabbage in April. I now plant them in January to February. And then I was planting them in October, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it in August. Okay? If that tells you anything about
Yes.
over the years how it's changed. So it's hard to believe, and it's one of those things. We talk a lot about garden planning on this show. We've got some tenants on this show that we really focus on, and I think planning is like the biggest one, if not, or one of the biggest, if not the biggest. But once, and I think Batavia sees it too, is you start planning it out right. It's not a big deal to put your cabbage in August. Like you're expecting that space to open up and it's ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a stretch. You're not out there ripping up plants like, oh no. You got it all figured out and it's really smooth. And that's what we're
Yeah.
doing here. So I know it's a big statement, but I truly believe, and I did it last year on my YouTube channel on Sandy Bottom Homestead. I talked a lot about planning and stuff like that, and now I'm seeing the results where people are like, I did what you said, and it really does work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's one of those things where it truly does work. You just have to have the faith to do it, and you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let you pull me into it, but we've been trained to think a certain way by the people who want your money. Well, we're not those people.
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's be honest here. I want some money, but it's I think that it's better if you as a viewer or a listener profit off of what we say. That's
First.
how first. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we sell seeds. You want to buy seeds? Come buy seeds. You know, every time you watch, you know, we make a penny, but still, if you are getting more produce and you're having a better garden and it's more productive, that is more important than trying to hustle some bull crap on the side. So I
Hmm.
think we have just all been trained. I know I was. I know for a fact I was trained
Well,
to plant wrong.
the very few spaces, which is the place that he's trying to avoid heading to, and I'm just going to drop us off right there. The very few spaces that I see that still have any kind of vegetable starts in August going into September, they're not your big box home improvement stores, right? You can get like corn stalks, you can get, mums, you can get, like pumpkins, like that's what you're going to get for fall, right? Um, the places that still have starts quite literally have the starts that they've had since the spring that just look terrible, right? And so
Why is that though? Why don't they have that stuff in those big box stores?
because the largest selling point for the growing and garden season has passed us. The majority of people, and I'm sure their sales numbers show it, they are producing these plants for sale in the spring going into summer. I quite literally go to the big box stores now as we're recording this in July and barely see flowers anymore there
Yeah.
outside of like the flowers that were just in for, 4th of July. But vegetable starts, nope. Maybe some herbs. You know what I'm saying?
So four
Um,
words.
oh, here we go.
There is no market. Plain and simple. You know what I mean? Like the average gardener does not realize that there is a third season that they can partake in, and therefore there is
Hmm.
no market, so that stuff is not available. So how do you get that stuff available? You start the
I'd
seed.
almost argue that, and they even start to send their seed displays back too.
Yeah, which
So if you
is
notice,
infuriating
yeah.
because when they send them back is when I need to buy them.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's why we started selling seeds. That's the whole reason why we started selling seeds because I couldn't get no damn seeds.
Like I'm walking around the garden center, like maybe they moved them inside, maybe
Yeah.
they moved them outside, maybe they moved them by the hardware section. Where in the world?